Imagine walking into a room full of people who think you're nobody. They laugh at you, dismiss you, even mock you to your face. Now, imagine you're actually the most powerful person in that room, but you say nothing. You just watch you who's wait. That's exactly what happened on a military base in the middle of nowhere. And what unfolded next changed everything those soldiers thought they knew about leadership, respect, and power. She arrived on a Tuesday afternoon when the desert sun was at its cruelest. No fanfare, no convoy of vehicles, no flags waving or soldiers standing at attention. Just a woman in combat fatigues that hung a bit loose on her frame, walking through the gate with a duffel bag over her shoulder and a name on a clipboard. That was Italiano. People noticed immediately, but not for the reasons you might think. They noticed because something felt off. In the military, arrivals mean something. Your rank determines how you show up. Officers get saluted. High-ranking officials get ceremonies. But this woman, she just walked in like she was reporting for basic training. The whispers started before she even reached her assigned quarters. Soldiers huddled in small groups, stealing glances, making assumptions. Some thought she looked too young to be anything important. Others figured she must be someone's relative, using connections to get posted somewhere easy. A few assumed she was there for some kind of administrative role, maybe clerical work. Nobody, and I mean nobody, guessed who she really was. How could they? She didn't carry herself like someone important. She didn't demand anything. She just existed quietly among them, almost invisible, despite being right there in plain sight. Her name was Evelyn Gray, though she preferred just Eve. That first evening, she walked into the dining hall, and the room did that thing rooms do when someone unfamiliar enters. Conversations dipped for a moment. Eyes tracked her movement. Then everything resumed. She grabbed a tray, filled it with whatever was being served that night, and sat alone in a corner. Not because she was forced to, but because she chose to. From that spot, she could see everything. Who sat with whom? Who was respected? Who was ignored? The unofficial hierarchies that exist in every group setting. She absorbed it all without saying a word, and that ability to observe, to truly see people when they thought nobody was watching, that was always her greatest strength. The base itself was one of those places designed to break you down and build you back up. Endless stretches of sand and rock, temperatures that swung from scorching during the day to freezing at night, and a training regimen that pushed even experienced soldiers to their limits. It was run by Commander Harris, a man who'd spent 3 decades in uniform and had zero patience for what he called weakness. He believed in old-school methods. Push people hard, weed out the ones who can't handle it, and turn the rest into warriors. He had medals covering his chest, scars covering his body, and a reputation for being as tough as they come. The morning after Eve arrived, Harris called for field exercises. Everyone assembled on the training grounds as the sun climbed higher, already baking the earth beneath their boots. Harris walked up and down the lines, barking orders, correcting postures, occasionally stopping to single someone out for special attention. Usually not the good kind. When he reached Eve, something made him pause. Maybe it was the way she stood there, perfectly still but somehow relaxed. Maybe it was the way her eyes focused on the distant horizon instead of on him. Whatever it was, it irritated him. He stepped closer, invading her space the way drill instructors do. You, new recruit. What's your rank? She didn't flinch. Didn't react at all, really. Just kept her eyes forward. He waited, then asked again, louder this time, making sure everyone nearby could hear. I asked you a question, soldier. What is your rank? Her response was so calm it almost seemed rehearsed. With respect, sir, rank isn't what matters right now. The soldiers around them went rigid. You could feel the tension spike. Nobody talked to Commander Harris that way. Nobody deflected his questions. He leaned in even closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous. In my military, rank is everything. It tells me who you are and what you're capable of. So I'll ask one more time. What is your rank? She finally turned her head slightly, just enough to make eye contact for a fraction of a second. There was no fear there, no defiance either, just a quiet certainty that seemed to throw him off balance. I'm here to train alongside everyone else, sir, she said. Consider me a soldier, Nothing more. Harris pulled back with a smirk, the kind that said he'd just marked her as a target. He turned to his second-in-command and spoke loud enough for others to hear. "We've got another one who thinks they're special. Let's see how long that lasts." What followed was brutal. Harris designed that day's exercises specifically to push everyone past their breaking point, but especially her. Long distance runs in full gear under the punishing sun. Obstacle courses that left even the fittest soldiers gasping. Live-fire drills that required precision under pressure. One by one, people started dropping out, stumbling to the shade, gulping water, some even needing medical attention. But Eve just kept going. She wasn't the fastest. She didn't showboat or try to prove anything. She simply moved through each task with this eerie efficiency, like she was conserving energy, calculating every movement, never wasting a single ounce of effort. That night, Harris sat in his office reviewing the day's footage. Modern bases record everything for training purposes, and he replayed the videos of Eve again and again. He watched how she approached each obstacle, how she timed her movements, how she seemed to understand the purpose behind every drill instinctively. His sergeant stood behind him, equally puzzled. "Sir, there's something different about her. The way she moves. It's like she's done this 1,000 times. Harris nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving the screen. "She's not here to learn. She's here to watch us." But why? The days that followed only deepened the mystery. Eve became this strange presence on the base. She participated in everything but never tried to stand out. She helped other soldiers when they struggled, but never in a way that drew attention. She followed orders perfectly but never asked questions. It was like she already knew everything she was being taught. Some soldiers started to resent her for it. Others became curious. A few even grew suspicious. Who was this woman who seemed too competent, too calm, too knowing? During a hand-to-hand combat session, Harris decided to test her in front of everyone. He paired her with Dobson, a man who looked like he'd been carved from granite. Dobson stood at least 6'4" and probably weighed twice what Eve did. When the pairing was announced, laughter rippled through the crowd. This was clearly meant to embarrass her, to show that some things require physical strength, and size matters. Dobson grinned like he'd just been handed an easy win. Eve just nodded and stepped onto the mat. The whistle blew. Dobson charged forward, all power and momentum. Evie waited until the last possible second, then shifted her weight in a way that seemed almost casual. Dobson's own force carried him past her, and with the smallest adjustment, the tiniest application of leverage, he was on the ground. The entire thing took maybe 3 seconds. The crowd went silent. Dobson lay there, more confused than hurt, trying to figure out what had just happened. Evie extended her hand to help him up, like it was just another training exercise. He refused. Pride wounded more than anything else, but the message was clear. Size didn't matter. Strength didn't matter. Skill did. After that, the rumors exploded. Some said she must have special forces training. Others thought maybe she was some kind of inspector sent to evaluate the base. A few paranoid types suggested she was a spy. The truth was so far beyond what anyone imagined that nobody even got close. Harris became borderline obsessed with figuring her out. He assigned her to the weakest teams during simulations, hoping she'd fail. He gave her impossible scenarios, hoping she'd crack. Nothing worked. The breaking point came during a large-scale wargame exercise. Multiple teams competing against each other. Capture objectives. Eliminate opponents, work together under pressure. Eve was placed on Team 7, deliberately filled with the least experienced soldiers, the ones who'd struggled in previous drills. Harris watched from the command center, confident this would finally expose her as ordinary. When the simulation started, chaos erupted across the field. Teams rushed forward recklessly. Ambushes happened. Alliances formed and broke. Team 7 stood frozen, unsure what to do, looking around for leadership. Someone finally asked Eve what their plan was. She didn't hesitate. Didn't give some rousing speech. She just said 3 things. Stay low, follow me, don't talk unless necessary. Then she moved. For the next 20 minutes, Team 7 transformed. They moved like they'd been training together for years. Every action was coordinated. Every movement had purpose. They captured objectives while other teams fought each other. They set up ambushes that eliminated superior forces. They claimed the high ground and held it. When the simulation ended, the scores appeared on the screen. Team 7 had won. Decisively. Harris stared at those numbers like they were written in a foreign language. His second-in-command whispered, "Sir, I've never seen anything like that." She turned them into a completely different unit. That night, Harris barely slept. The humiliation of being outmaneuvered burned inside him. This recruit, this nobody without even a confirmed rank, had just proven that everything he thought he knew about command might be wrong. The next morning, during assembly, with over 200 soldiers standing in formation, he snapped. He called her out, his voice echoing across the grounds. "You think you're better than everyone here? You think you can walk onto my base and show up my methods, my soldiers, my authority?" Eve said nothing, just stood at attention. He moved closer, his face red with anger and something else, maybe fear of being shown up. "Since you refuse to tell us who you are, I'm asking one final time in front of everyone. What is your rank?" The silence was absolute. Every eye was on her. Eve took a slow breath, and when she spoke, her voice carried clearly across the field without her needing to shout. 4-star General. For a moment, nobody reacted. Then someone laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others joined in. Even Dobson shook his head with a bitter smile, like she'd finally revealed herself as delusional. But Eve didn't laugh. She didn't smile. She just stood there with that same calm certainty she'd had since the moment she arrived. Harris felt his world tilt. Something in her eyes, in the way she carried herself, made him realize she wasn't joking. He stormed off the field and straight into the command office, demanding personnel files, security clearances, anything that would prove this was nonsense. What came back shattered everything. She was telling the truth. Evelyn Gray, promoted from Major to 4-star General, through a series of classified operations most people would never hear about. She'd led missions in places that didn't officially exist. She'd made decisions that changed the course of conflicts. She was one of the highest-ranking officers in the entire military structure, and she'd been walking among them, eating in their dining hall, sleeping in their barracks, the whole time. When Harris finally returned to find her, his legs barely worked. She was sitting alone on a bench, watching the sun set over the desert. As he approached, she stood and saluted him properly. He collapsed to his knees, his voice breaking. "General Gray, I had no idea. The things I said, the way I treated you." She stopped him with a raised hand and a gentle expression. "Commander Harris rank is just a title. Respect is what we earn through our actions. You did your job exactly as you should have." She offered him her hand, helping him to his feet. No anger, no condescension, just respect between soldiers. Word spread through the base like wildfire in dry grass. "Within hours, Everyona." The woman they dismissed, mocked, underestimated, was one of the most powerful people in the military. Soldiers who'd laughed at her now couldn't meet her eyes. Others sought her out to apologize, but Eve didn't change how she acted at all. She continued training, eating in the mess hall, treating everyone exactly the same. That, more than anything, taught them what real leadership looked like. In the months that followed, everything shifted. Commanders from other bases came to meet her. Officers sought her advice, but the soldiers who'd trained alongside her, they understood something deeper. They'd learned that true authority doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need ceremonies or titles or people bowing down. It exists in how you treat others, how you handle challenges, how you lead by example, even when nobody knows who you are. When the day came for Eve to leave, the entire base assembled. Some had tears in their eyes. Everyone stood at perfect attention as she walked through one final time. Commander Harris saluted her with a steady hand, and she returned it. Then she paused and said something that would echo in that place long after she was gone. "Do not wait for rank to lead with integrity. Start right now, wherever you are. Who you are isn't determined by titles on a uniform or medals on a chest. It's revealed in how you act when nobody's watching, when you have nothing to prove, when you could demand respect but instead choose to earn it. Sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the quietest one, and sometimes the greatest leaders are the ones who never needed to tell you they were leading at all.